mark my words and mark everybody else on this council, we're in for full support of our 148th, especially on the national defense. We need that. Every country needs that. Even Switzerland has that. The point where it becomes an issue is where we're spending 59 cents of every dollar of federal discrepancy spending and funding military purposes is where I have a real hard issue with this as a local representative. This basically means that we're ignoring our national issues. And coming from real experience that's on the Public Utilities Commission, where I've had been fortunate to serve for the last 2 years, and just agonize of the nickel and diming that we have to do to our constituents to pay for essential city services, meaning our streets, our sewers, our water. And this is not only in Duluth, this is across the nation, where our infrastructure is crumbling. And, to make it short, I agree with Councilor Kraus that military does in our area support a lot of local jobs, as it does across the U.S. But I bring up the counter argument, and I look deep into that, is, my grandpa, northern Wisconsin boy in Phillips, Wisconsin, was on conservation corps camps. And here's where we kept our folks out of harm's way, but also work on infrastructure that we still see today, that we need today. And you see it in our park and recs, and you see it on our highway and our infrastructure. And that's where I feel like we need to get back to the basics, and it starts at a local level. I agree to follow on with St. Paul and Minneapolis and tell our representation in the state and federal government that we're suffering here at a local level, and it starts with this federal funding. So I'm in support of this.
For me, it's about balance, and I think it was Karen who put up that slide that when the United States spends as much on the military as the next 19 combined, you have to ask a question about balance. And for me, that is the issue. It does affect us. It's cuts in programs, cuts in mental health programs that are on everybody's minds these days, and in other kinds of programs. And so I am supportive of this resolution, and we'll be voting yes on it.
So for me, supporting this resolution tonight is a way to offer a different kind of story as well, and to say that it is a different way to look at how we're doing budgeting, to really recognize that what happens on a federal level impacts us very deeply here in our community. But I feel it as a community member. I know that our constituents across the city feel what it means when those choices are made for us. I will be supporting it. Thank you.
I believe a strong military willing to protect America is the most crucial service our government can provide to its citizens. Sending them to war in Vietnam or Afghanistan, though, is truly questionable. I won't be supporting this resolution, but I certainly understand.
This is a subject that has to be talked about. And it has to be talked about on a local level because we are a democracy, and we inform and should be informing our federal leaders about what we want to talk about. And as since I've been on the council in 2008, we have been in a budget crisis. We had a CDBG report tonight on the funding and the spending, and they're talking about who they had to cut out, who they couldn't help, and who they could, and they couldn't fund as much as they wanted to from different places, such as the Futures program, such as CHUM. Places like Lifehouse that aren't getting as much as they ask for because the money isn't there. And the money isn't there, quite honestly, because we went into wars that were unfunded. Councilor Stauber is right about his history, his Vietnam history. He knows it well, he lived it, and I lived it in a different way, but I don't dispute your history, you're absolutely right. But what is happening here now is that these wars have been unfunded for the first time in American history, that I can remember, we went to war without raising taxes. So that money had to come from somewhere, and it did. The money to fund those wars came directly from domestic spending. And, you know, if you wonder about it, got this information from Mr. Hamre from our planning department. In 2002, the city received, and this is not adjusted for inflation, the city received $3.6 million for CDBG funding. That's in 2002. And in 2012, it received $2.1 million. And we are city government officials that are stuck right now not being able to plow our streets, having to close fire halls, having to cut fire, we still don't have recreation specialists in youth programs in our parks department. And, you know, we just voted to raise our taxes so that we could get our library hours back. Our Senator Klobuchar, the day after the election, and I was floored to hear her say on a morning program that we were going to have to cut Social Security and Medicare. And she referred to them as entitlements. And which really is, I have a problem with that, because as all of us have done, we have paid into our Social Security, we have paid into our Medicare. These are earned benefits. But we're hearing this from our Democratic senator, and I expect leadership from her, and I certainly expected more from her the day after the election. Hear them talk, and they say, well, we have to, you know, cut these entitlements. That's all you hear in the Beltway. And people think, well, you know, I don't know. I think there's other things we can cut, you know, and I know, and I think one of the great things that Minnesota ASAP is doing, and again, the Arms Spending Alternative Project, is they're telling people, yes, it's okay to have this conversation. You're right. You are not wrong. The people in Washington don't know something we don't know. You know, in fact, we know something they don't know, because we have to try to do as much with less. And for any of us who have lived in Duluth and know how important our street plowing is and know the condition of it, you know, this is the connection, and this is a chance to do it. Minnesota ASAP is committed to do an outreach plan. And for local groups, and they're going to schedule office visits with members of Congress and or their staffers. They're going to participate in the meetings, and they plan to share ASAP's list of endorsers from throughout the state, and including handing them a paper copy. And they're also going to inform them of the U.S. Mayor's endorsement of a similar resolution. And they're going to encourage members of Congress to read these resolutions on the House and Senate floor. And to that end, Congressman-elect Nolan has been sent a copy of this resolution, and we are hoping to hear from him soon about endorsing it, because he has shown support about this in the past.
That, I will bring this up for a vote. So all those in favor of Resolution 639, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no. No. Resolution 639 passes 5-3-1.